Yeah, let's get the Vulturous Zombie in. Cast with the As Foretold. Yeah, we'll choose all of these targets. No, the counter on the Taurian Mauler. Bunch of things going down. Vulturous Zombie gets a bunch of counters on it. It's now an 8-8.
Today on Commander Replay, can we use the Chimeras from Visions to clone our opponent's creatures with Volrath? Find out next on Commander Replay. I want to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. If you want to help support the channel and vote on which decks I play next, feel free to check out my Patreon, the link below.
Welcome back, everyone. Playing some Volrath the Shapestealer today. Today's deck list comes to us from Patreon supporter Jeff. Let's take a look at this opening hand. All lands and ramp. Kinda interesting. The fact that this ramps, I may actually keep this and then pray to draw into stuff that matters. I think I'm gonna try it. Let's keep. I know we could do better. This is gonna be a pretty chill game, I think. So I think we're gonna have some time in this one. So looking at a lot of lands like this isn't necessarily the scariest thing to me. If you told me that we were going to be playing a game that might end in like 6-7 turns, then I'd probably try to mulligan into something better, but I don't know. My feeling on Magic Online is that like a lot of times that second hand doesn't get better, and I find myself going to 6 quite often, and I just don't feel like going to 6 today, so we'll try the all lands and ramp hand, see where that gets us. Hopefully we don't get punished. Unfortunately, none of these are fetches. At least with fetches, you pull lands out of the deck, so there's less to draw later. Alright, that's a Deep Glow Skate, that's something. So a thing that we could do, I don't know that we need to come out swinging so hard that we go into this and then try to play the Lantern on 2. Does that even matter? I don't think so. This one comes in untapped. I guess we could. But then the problem becomes that then you can only activate this one additional time. Yeah, okay, so let's play an Opulent Palace right here. Gets us all of our colors of mana. Not used to looking at like this many tap lands in an opener. 3-color deck with no fetches. I did make a couple changes to the deck. I made 2 changes. One, I added this Chromatic Lantern because I knew there aren't fetches in this deck and the colors could be a little bit dicey. I did play this deck one time already and made some critical mistakes that led to me getting deleted from the game. So we probably won't see that one. Wasn't super happy about it, but didn't really feel like I did the deck justice by doing that. I mistapped a color and couldn't fog an attack for 30 that came in, so yeah, that was fun. Anyway, that brings us back to our turn. There's a Scoop Mob. Opponent does Poke with the Robber of the Rich. This is a card that I want to get a better look at, so hopefully this stays in play for a little while and get some kind of feel on whether it's effective or not. I know it's been out for a while. I just haven't played it anywhere, and I've been wanting to, and just, you know, sometimes it's hard to test cards in the 99. You really need to run a deck a lot just to see it if you don't draw it. And you also need to get it in the right situation. For them, this is the right situation. Early in a game, no creatures on board. Pretty nice. Anyway, let's start working on our turn here. We can get Vivid Marsh tapped, play the Scoop Mob, and we'll pass like that. Opponent got themselves a Sylvan Library last turn. Going to get the trigger right now. And Pauper did send over the Robber of the Rich over there. The other change I made to the deck is I added a Toxic Deluge. The deck is really light on removal, so I didn't feel comfortable rolling into a game with 0 board wipes, so I wanted at least one. Maybe we'll draw it, maybe we won't, but if it comes up or if we need to tutor or whatever the case is, it's there if we find it, So yeah, this is a pretty chill take on Volrath. He said he built it as an excuse to use these Chimera cards out of, what are these out of? Visions? Oh man. I know I've got a few of these in a box somewhere, so. But anyway, yeah, that was the thing they wanted to do with this deck, make use of these Chimeras. There's a few cute little tricks in here. We've got a Spike Weaver so we can fog some damage. We got a Bane of Progress, Carnifax Demon, Hangerback Walker. So it's going to be a counters-themed deck. And yeah, should be kind of interesting. Opponent's going to play Agonizing Remorse. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it or a card from their graveyard. Exile that card, you lose 1 life. Seems kind of savage. Reveals their hand. Beast Within. Camaraderie. Gain X life and draw X cards of X the number of creatures you control. That's a green-white card. Enray's Forerunners. That's a good one. That'll get you killed. Reese the Redeemed and a Solemn Simulacrum. I'd take the Enray's Forerunners. What'd they exile? Oh, they exiled a Second Harvest. Legit choice. That one will kill you earlier and faster than the Enray's Forerunners will. Enray's Forerunners a little bit bigger later in the game type of thing. Gonna have to watch out if they get a lot of creatures, though. Means they can just end it. Mask of Memory for opponent. Oh yeah, now they're rolling. Equip the mask. And opponent's thinking not. They're gonna Beast Within the Robber of the Rich. There's an As Foretold. Well, this is probably the best time to draw it. Let's play a Botanical Sanctum. Let's play an As Foretold. Start ticking that thing up. Kind of a slow thing to get going. Really good in decks that are super mana efficient. So if you're playing like EDH or something and everything in your deck's 1 and 2 mana, can be effective that way. We'll poke opponent for 1. They do have some power over there. They've got a Sylvan Library pretty strong. They're in green-white. They've got card draw in their hand. They're set up decently well. They've just got more happening than we do at this moment in time. Honestly, wouldn't be sad if someone wheels. Pauper's good for a wheel. He's in this game. He's playing red. Anyway, let's take a look at what our opponents are playing. So, first up is Mango piloting Maja, Bretagard, Protector. 5 mana, 2/3. Other creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 human warrior creature token. So it's going to be landfall and tokens. Pretty straightforward. We saw some of the stuff in their hand. Very token focused. So, watch out for them as they get a big army into play. I did tell opponents to bring some removal because our deck does not have very much, so that's the type of thing that'll run you over if you don't wipe the board once they get set up, so you gotta watch out for that. They do get a Solemn Simulacrum, though, and get their land, so they're doing all right. And Sean's going to drop in a Soul Herder, cool blue-white blink card. Sean is piloting Nevinrryal, Urborg, Tyrant, hexproof from artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. When it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token for each creature that died this turn. When it dies, you may pay 1. If you do, Nevinrryl's Disc. Maybe that's like a little too much removal. Opponent's going to swing our way with the Beast and get us with the Mask of Memory. Also, they dropped in a Grenzo, so they can goad our creature, which it appears they're going to do. At least the Soul Herder's still a 1/1, so we can just send it that way. They probably don't want to trade it, I hope. And with that, that'll bring it back to our turn. What'd they discard? Path of Ancestry. There's a Fathom Mage. Fathom Mage is a card. This is now on 1. We're goaded, so we're going to swing into Sean, and hopefully he doesn't block right here. Excellent. No blocks. Maybe we can get this Fathom Mage if, yeah, let's get that. Green, blue. And we'll pass like that. Sylvan Library for opponent. One of the sad things to say, I hate that I have to say this, is if you want to play +1/+1 counters, Atraxa is just the better deck to do it. I hate saying it. It pains me to say it. But Atraxa is just way too strong. So, if you want to be on the +1/+1 counters theme, it is the best deck for it, sadly. But I get it. Everyone plays Atraxa. So it is very cool to have a different take on a counters deck that is not Atraxa. But from a pure power standpoint, Atraxa is just so unbelievably powerful. Opponent drops in that Reese. Ooh, a Soul Herder. Sean's going to despark the Maja. And that'll trigger the Soul Herder, putting a +1/+1 counter on it. Soul Rain coming in for opponent. Opponent gonna do some attacking once again. Grenzo coming our way. Nothing we can do about it. And opponent got their Zagras into play. Yeah, it's got a +1/+1 counter on it. This is a really cool card. I think I played it once on the channel. I'd like to play it again. Don't know when I'll have time, but I just think it's cool. 3 Grenzo triggers, a Mask of Memory trigger. Opponent generating some value over there. Reese is going to get goaded. They can tap it in response, though. They're going to goad our Scoot Mob. Don't love it. And they're going to goad the Soul Herder. It means we might lose the Scoot Mob, which I don't love. Doubt that we'll be able to get a 5th land in before our upkeep. There's a Zagoth Triome. That might be worth cycling. As foretold, up to 2 counters. Not helping us yet. This is probably a good turn for Temple of the False God, honestly. Yeah, let's cast Volrath. We'll evolve. We draw a card. What's this say exactly? Whenever a +1/+1 counter is put on Fathom Mage, you may draw a card. Okay, so it doesn't matter when other people get them. Make the Soul Herder a 1/1. Either they have to trade the Soul Herder, or they just take the 1 off our Scoop Mob, and our Scoop Mob gets to survive. I did want to copy the Solemn Simulacrum, so that way, like, if a board wipe happens, we can just become a Solemn Simulacrum and draw the card. Opponent goes no blocks, lets our Scoop Mob through. Sakura Tribuilder for opponent. Opponent's going to play a Thief of Sanity. Seems good, although they are missing land drops. That's not where you want to be. Soul Herder coming back our way. We'll give them free passage. They did not block. Soul Herder is going to blink the Thief of Sanity, and this gets a +1/+1 counter on it. Dagger Caster. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent and 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. Oh, that's going to kill our Scoop Mob. Opponent sacrifices their Sakura Tribuilder. We were almost there. We were almost there. Our turn, we're 3rd in the turn order, so that's a turn order problem. Wait. Oh, they all have Death Touch. Yeah, we just got crushed. We just got crushed. Everything dies. Awesome. Love it when that happens. Opponent going to spread the damage. Yep. 3 Grenzo triggers. Mask of Memory trigger. Yep. All the value. Can exile the top of everyone's library. Please hit a land from us. We really don't need another. Ha! They got a land. Nice. Well, that's a utility land. That may actually be useful. Could have been useful, but now we need to draw cards. Opponent's got a Psychic Surgery. Whenever an opponent shuffles their library, you may look at the top 2 cards of their library, exile one of them. Cast the Psychic Surgery. That was Sean's card. Well, they need to find a land, so they don't really need that. Footfall Crater, good card. Malachur Blood Priest. Enters battlefield, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures in your party. So it's a party deck. Oh, we're down to 28. Opponent's up to 41. Groats. As foretold, gonna be on 3. Can cast a Chromatic Lantern for 3. Let's cast a Chromatic Lantern. Let's cast the Blood Tracker. And we need to draw a lot of cards with this thing. We can pay a black and pay 2 life to put a +1/+1 counter on it. When it leaves the battlefield, we'll draw a card for each counter that's on it. Any lands we can play untapped? Nope, doesn't look like it. So we'll play the Scary. Not completely sold on these in this deck. Does feel a little bit cute. Although with the with Chromatic, ooh, yeah, that's another reason to run Chromatic Lantern. You can tap this for 1 mana when you want to. I would definitely add Chromatic Lantern to this deck. Sylvan Library for opponent. Kind of need a board wipe over here now. It would slow them down a little, but they've generated a lot of value already that won't completely crush them, but at least we need to reset them. Maja back to play. They're going to path on the commander. I mean, at this state, we have like no momentum going, so they probably just recast it. Also, it's going to have a bunch of cost reduction. This thing has flying. That's kind of cool. Taurine Mauler for opponent. Yep. Problem we got to be careful of, we're liable to sink a lot of life into this. I don't know how much life gains in this deck. Oh man, if we could copy the Taurine Mauler with Volrath, that'd be kind of cool. Here comes Zagras back to play. Flying Death Touch Haste. Creatures you control have Death Touch. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a Planeswalker, destroy that Planeswalker. Essentially Death Touch for Planeswalkers. Mask of Memory on the Dagger Caster. Opponent's going to send a 3/3 our way. It's going to have Death Touch. That's an opportunity to draw some cards, actually. Also going to send the 2/3 our way. Let's pump this thing up. Opponent's going to Swords on the Commander. The problem is if we don't get rid of the other stuff, they still just recast it super cheaply. I'm glad we know about this beforehand, though. We're still going to pump this thing the rest of the way. We'll block the Mask of Memory hit, stop their value. They're already tapped out this turn, which means we can potentially get a little bit of tempo back. Well, that's a Grenzo. So now an opponent's probably going to have to take a whole bunch in the air. Exile off top, and goad. Yep. Does this have to be from hand? When it gets to 5, I think we can recast our commander with it, but may recast our commander this turn anyway. We'll see. We'll see. Oop, Detention Sphere goes into exile. Opponent doesn't have any mana, though. Extinction Event. As foretold, ticking up. Vulturous Zombie. Real card. Whenever a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, put a +1/+1 counter on Vulturous Zombie. Interesting. Couple 5-drops in our hand now. We can Deep Glow Skate to double the counters on this, which doesn't seem like an awful idea, because then if this dies for any reason, we draw a whole bunch of cards. And that seems like a good thing. I think I'm going to do it after combat, though. We do have to attack, so we can't hold it back at all. So 5 in the air over to Mango. Gonna Deep Glow Skate, Taurine Mauler. We'll add a counter. And then I think we'll cycle the Triome with our last 3. I know I don't want to spend more life than that. Deep Glow Skate, pump this thing up. If like a board wipe happens, maybe we will, but we'll leave up that choice. We'll play the tap land, and we'll pass like that. Anointed Procession for opponent. Triggers the Mauler. Opponent plays a land, gets a Maja trigger. Cracks a land, Maja trigger. And we'll get 2 tokens for it. Psychic Surgery gonna get him. Nice. Sean does not find a land. He is very stuck. The way things are going right now, though, this game looks like it might wrap up in a turn or two unless someone plays some removal. Life totals are bleeding except for Paupers. There's some things on board and some things that are growing, so... Zagras back to play. There it is. I wonder if we're going to get hit hard right here because of the 2/2s. 3/3 and a 5/5 coming our way. 2/2 over to Sean. We might as well trade with the Beast. Take the 5. And just out of curiosity, we'll cycle the Triome. If we run into a 4-mana instant, we could play it with the As Foretold. Cycle this. Sean's going to Teferi's Protect. Puts another counter on the Taurine Mauler. Casualties of War is a real Magic card. Deep Glow Skate goes down. Grenzo trigger. Ooh, we cast the Vulturous Zombie first. It's going to get huge. That's kind of fun. We get goaded again. It's not great. We will end up taking out Mango because he doesn't have any flying blocking. As Foretold, there's a Master Biomancer. Yeah, let's get the Vulturous Zombie in. Cast with the As Foretold. Taurine Mauler trigger. Do we kill our own creature? Artifact creature, enchantment, land, planeswalker. We probably could have cast that first. Whoops. Yeah, we'll choose all of these targets. Destroy target artifact. Tough choice between... if we hit a Soul Ring and that land, they're losing 3 of their mana production, which is pretty good. That means they'll still have the Mask of Memory, though. And, ideally they would be drawing less cards, so maybe we go for the Mask. Mask is pretty strong. This thing's getting large, which is kind of a problem, although we might be able to kind of... we need to get rid of this Grenzo also. We also need to get rid of their commander. They just have a lot of stuff happening. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty hard for them to recast their commander after this. Enchantment, we'll go for the Psychic Surgery, and we'll hit this swamp with the land with the thing on it. Another counter on the Taurine Mauler. A bunch of things going down. Vulture Zombie gets a bunch of counters on it. It's now an 8/8. We could play the Master Biomancer. We probably need blockers. Yeah, play the Biomancer, give up on this thing. Taurine Mauler getting bigger. Definitely did that out of order. Didn't realize I had enough mana. Guess we're taking out Mango. Maybe we attack Sean. I'm asking Mango, would he like to bend the knee? He says he's gunning for Pauper. Works for me, so we're going to leave Mango alive and hit Sean even though the damage will get soaked up. Wouldn't normally do it, but we do not have the tools to do this ourselves, so. And he happens to have damage on board, plus a, Enray's Forerunners in hand. Even with that, that's probably still not enough to kill Pauper from where Pauper is right now. Discussing that Pauper is the arch enemy. Yep. Yeah, they just came out. They had a Soul Ring somewhere early. Got the Mask of Memory going. Got that early value. Kind of propelled them a lot. Their commander has cost reduction built in, so they've been able to recast it a bunch. Sean kind of been stuck, so not having access to a lot of the things in his deck, which is probably a lot of removal. Camaraderie, gonna gain next life, draw X cards. I was really expecting the Decimator, but I guess that makes sense since even with that, they probably still can't win from there. Ooh, Vulture Zombie getting bigger? I love it. This is such a cool card. You just don't see it much anymore. You gotta be playing really specific decks for it. Probably +1/+1 counters. Probably Atraxa, this, or Mazarek is probably about as much as you really see this card, but back in the day, oh man, like 15 years ago, this card almost felt unbeatable. It would just get so huge that, what was removal? What? Removal was also way less good back then, because, a lot of removal was Doomblade. Oh, this creature's black? Doomblade doesn't hit it? Okay. I don't know. It was just a different time, but yeah, this thing used to get massive and do some wild stuff. Cryptolith Rite for opponent. Ooh, that's a lot of mana. Azusa, also pretty good. Landfall, 2 tokens. Mango is now a problem. Landfall, 2 more tokens. Sending them into Pauper. They're 3/3s. Yeah, this should take a chunk out of his life. Put him into closer striking range. It takes a lot to get someone from 47. They go down to 32. It's reasonable. We have 19 power of flying in the air, and this is going to grow. This can grow if we put some life into it, but we are running low on life. If we run into more counter doubling, that could be pretty good. Egon, God of Death. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile 2 cards from your graveyard. If you can't, sacrifice it and draw a card. Yeah, it seems like they need that. Mauler getting bigger. I actually wouldn't mind if Pauper gets forced into a board wipe. Nope, just gonna keep recasting that Zagras. Okie dokie. Everything's got Death Touch again. Where are they going? Sending the Mauler our way. Yeah, we're gonna have to block that. Oh, sending the other 2 our way. Not ideal. Well, we gotta block the big one. Ugh, we're gonna keep getting goaded. Ooh, Mango goes down to commander damage. Okay. Oh, wow. Opponent just goaded both of our creatures. Oh, goad is so OP. Brings it back to our turn. Solidarity of Heroes. Choose any number of target creatures, double the number of counters on them. That is disappointing. Is there a way we can get this thing killed? I don't know that this will pan out, but we gotta give it a shot, right? Mauler trigger. No point to kill Sean. He's not a threat. We need to hope that he hits removal. Minus counter on... Guess the Grenzo. Got attack with both. Oh, I forgot to do the Grenzo thing. Whoops. I don't know if it's going to matter. Don't know if it's going to matter. It's got to be a board wipe right here, otherwise we both die. Egon trigger. Tap land. That's not ideal. It's got to be a deluge. I mean, maybe we should have probably just shot the Grenzo. Gonna send it in. He doesn't currently have enough power to kill us both. He can cast a creature and give it haste, though. Opponent's gonna feed the swarm. Yep, down it goes. Vulturous Zombie. Yep, down we go. So that game was just all about Grenzo just goading us and not... We never had enough creatures to, untap and have enough blockers, basically. It's also a removal problem. Better removal, a true board wipe, slows things down. Okay, so the main components of this deck need some work, being the ramp, the removal, and the card draw. That's where it's struggling a bit. It's just going to be hard to have success without those things. So let's take a peek at the ramp. Honestly, I don't really care for As Foretold in this deck. I just don't think it does enough. I would just put a Thran Dynamo in that slot. Because if you draw As Foretold late, it's not going to be good. You want something with immediate impact. Thran Dynamo is that card. Crystalline Crawler can make some mana. Death Sprout can ramp. So the ramp isn't too bad, but you definitely need to add a little bit. I would add some multi-ramp like Thran Dynamo for sure. You could add a Hedron Archive if you want. The ability to crack it to draw some cards late is always helpful. Another thing that I would look at, Burnished Heart would not be terrible either. Reasonable source of ramp if you wanted to go that way. The next step, I think, is going to be the card draw. Like, we just didn't look at any additional cards. An opponent was only about 5 cards ahead of us, but those 5 cards were essentially on the battlefield, and it's enough. You don't need to draw every card in existence, but getting a few extra is hugely critical to having success in a game. Especially too, like, if you want to build around these Chimeras, they're not highly impactful, so drawing more cards is just where you want to be. There's a Ring of 3 Wishes. We can do better than that. Yeah, so this is basically the sum of our card draw, and some of it's spotty. Sultai Charm is barely card draw. You're probably using it as removal more than anything else. So I'm not even going to count it as card draw because you're probably only going to loot if you're in a bad situation already. Ring of 3 Wishes is interesting. It's a cute way to tutor, but it is a lot of mana. I would honestly rather just have straight card draw over that. I get that it's on theme, you're trying to proliferate the counters and do it more, but you know how much mana it takes to activate that thing 3 times? That's 15 mana. That's a lot. The game's going to need to go pretty long for that to work. So you have a lot of options. One, Volrath is a 7/5, so Rishkar's Expertise, so incredibly good for high power commanders, as in commanders with a large number in the power text box. Rishkar's Expertise. What's the new one? Any of the Soul's Majesty type draw cards are going to be very good for this deck. I'm going for Soul's Majesty over the Garruk Planeswalker just because of the triple green. Can be a little bit rough without an expensive mana base, so Soul's Majesty can be a little bit easier. Either one is fine, though. I'll be honest, I've played 2 games with this deck. So far, I haven't really seen where you have a lot of creatures with +1/+1 counters. I guess it gives them indestructible. I guess that's fine, but even calling this card draw is like a little bit suspect. Now, obviously, if you're in blue and you have the budget, Mystic Remora, Rhystic Study, that stuff is all good, but I think those things are getting expensive. I don't think it's terribly expensive, but Pull from Tomorrow is a solid card. Might add something like that. But even if you want to, things as simple as like Harmonize and Concentrate, those are very impactful cards. So that'll get a little bit more card draw, and that'll keep you from getting stuck less. Not Love and Stitch together. There's better reanimation. I'm also not convinced that like Volrath is the best commander for this deck to be in the command zone. I think something like Mazarek might be closer to what you want. Based on how the rest of this deck is built, I almost feel like Mazarek is something that might be more up your alley if you don't want to just play Atraxa. Whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, that's a really powerful ability. It kind of gets overshadowed by the fact that it came out as the same set as Marin, and now Atraxa has a Death Grip on all the +1/+1 counter theme decks. But if your goal is to like really go in on the proliferate thing and kind of do some wild stuff with that, this is probably a slightly better commander for that. With Volrath, I think you care more about your opponent's creatures and putting counters on them, as opposed to you having counters on your stuff. Right now, a lot of the things in this deck are, they care about you wanting counters on your stuff, but that's not necessarily what Volrath cares a ton about, so I don't know, it does feel a little bit at odds right there. That's something you can play around with and kind of work out, see how you're feeling about it. Like, it might just be better to cut some of the +1/+1 counter theme, have a couple tutors, and then just go get Contagion Engine late and let that do all the proliferating that you need. That's certainly one way to go about it. The other thing was the removal. The removal is definitely very light in this deck. I added the Deluge just to have something. You're going to want a board wipe of some kind. Pick whatever board wipe you have access to. There's a bunch of cheap ones, and Black Life's Finale is perfectly reasonable if you're on a budget. So it looks like there's 9 pieces here. However, a lot of them are pretty situational. Like, you know, a -1/-1 counter does not wipe the board. There's a Contagion Clasp right here too. So same sort of thing. Like, these will kill some things. They will not kill the big things. You'll need a lot of mana, so later in the game, they become very good, but early in the game, not so good. Fuel for the Cause, I think I'm just going to cut that. I get what the goal is, but your 4 CMC is going to be pretty crowded, and that's just not the best place to get Proliferate from. I think we're going to be better served with just more creature removal and stuff like that. Probably need to get the creature count down just a teeny bit in this deck also. We're at 33, and right now this is not set up like a 33 creature count kind of deck. That's another thing too. If you want to keep a high creature count like that, Zendikar Resurgent and Beast Whisperer, both very legitimate cards. I think Zendikar Resurgent is actually cheaper than Beast Whisperer now, last I looked, so I'd probably add that. That's mana ramp and card draw. That'll allow you to like do more of the stuff you want to do in your deck. But I know Beast Whisperer is starting to creep up there, so if that's kind of expensive, Harmonize, Concentrate, still perfectly legit cards. Ambitions cost in black. You'll lose a little life, but it's fine. Moonlight Bargain is a card that I like. Promise of Power, a little rough on the mana, but... Oh, we've got an Astral Cornucopia in the deck too. I didn't see that one. So let's get just like a couple more removal spells into the deck. Straight board wipes. Life's Finale is cheap. Crux of Fate is still pretty cheap, as I recall. Obviously Damnation, but Damnation is usually expensive. Any of that stuff, and even if you don't like those, you could go for like Aetherize, and Aetherize would have been huge this game. Would have bought us a lot of time. Ether Spouts is also soul crushing. So that's about 12 pieces of removal. That's about what I like to run. We are starting to bleed over a little bit now. Oh, card draw wise, other things you can do too. Bonder's Enclave, because you have a high power creature, and War Room's going to be okay. It's going to be a bit of life loss. You might want to go Makokoro instead. Either are fine though. And that just gives you a way to draw with your lands, which is huge. In 2 games now, I really don't like the depletion counter lands. I don't think they're worth it for this deck. Where are they? Here's one. We're going to get rid of that. Peat Bog and Surprise and Scary. I played it now twice. I think you need to be in an Atraxa deck for that, a deck that's going to be proliferating a lot. Because it just feels like I never want to use them because they have limited uses. So it's just not where I want to be. Let's resort by CMC and see where we're at. Oh yeah, we are pretty clunky at 3 and 4. Replicating Ring out. It's the least good ramp at 3. Added a lot of 4 drops. Ha! +2/+2 counter. Remember those? 18 4 drops is definitely a lot. That being the case, is Crystalline Crawler good enough in this deck? Not sold. We'll cut Concentrate since there's less blue in the deck. We'll cut Aetherize, but you should probably run it. If you end up not picking up one of the other board wipes, I would definitely add it in. 16 is still very clunky, but we need to get rid of some creatures. Oh, there's a Nev's Disc in the deck that I didn't see. The rest of the 4 drops are pretty good. The Chimeras do take up a bunch of important card slots. It's gonna be a little clunky there. You know, you can try running a bunch of Signets to balance that out, but like, I ran a Kaalia deck for years with all of the 2 mana rocks in it, and you just can't guarantee that you're always going to hit those and be able to get to them on turn 4. Vorel, in my opinion, is actually really slow a lot of the time. Every time I've ever seen it, it's been pretty underwhelming in my opinion. You can keep it because I know it's on theme with the deck, but I'd probably cut it. Actually, you know what? I really just don't care for Sultai Charm. I feel like it's bad at everything. It's not great draw. It's not great removal. I'd rather have something that's like really good at one thing as opposed to a card that's like fairly mediocre at all of them. Yeah, I'm just not sold on this Crystalline. It does make mana though, so if you cast it for 3, comes in with 3, you remove counter. Yeah, I'm not sold on this. I think you really want to be in Atraxa for this particular card. The land did come down a little bit. I know we cut some lands in there. That might be an issue. Watch out for that. It depends on how many flip lands are in this deck. There's a flip land. Are there any other flip lands? I'm going to cut Vorel. I just don't. I've never cared for Vorel that much. You can add a Myriad Landscape in the deck if you don't have one. Helps with the ramp also. Brings you back to 36 lands, 37 with the flip land. So that'll be a little bit better. There's probably still more work to do with this deck, but that's kind of the main tenets is maybe 2 to 3 more ramp cards, especially some multi-ramp like Thran Dynamo. Definitely more removal, definitely more card draw, and that'll help you from getting stuck. That should help the deck run just a little bit better. And then there's some questions about like synergy and who's the best commander for the command zone. I do feel somewhat like the 99 is a bit disjointed from the commander a little bit. A card you could look at if you're trying to do the proliferate thing and just jam a bunch of counters on a lot of stuff. Vorrath the Hunter might actually be a really cool choice for the commander of this deck. Because if your goal is just to make things big with a bunch of plus counters on it, Vorrath is really good for that. and I have seen some Vorrath plus counter decks in the past, and that might sync up a little bit better than what Volrath is trying to do, because I think Volrath wants to play around with your opponent's creatures a lot and do that kind of thing. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching. Hey guys, help support me and save 15% on singles by using the promo code REPLAY at mothershipaTX.com. Commander Replay t-shirts, available in orange and colors beside orange.